Alright, ladies and gents, we're back with Project Cheap Mode. And today, something I've been waiting for a month. New seats. These are Hunter Safety Products, HSP. So I ordered these about a month ago. Takes time for quality, I get it, they're worth the wait. So we're going to do an install. Get rid of the stalkers, put in the HSPs. Probably do a little time lapse here, and I'll stop along the way for any pertinent information. If you've done seats, one of these before, you know how to get them out, you know how to put them in. But I'll cover the details of mounting the HSPs to the stock sliders. So about these Hunter Safety Products seats I got here. This particular model is their Edge model. They have another, I believe it's called the Hijack. The difference being, as far as I know, it's the number of panels in each seat. This one here gives you a little more options as far as different color combinations. I chose to keep this one pretty simple. There's not an orange that matches the Can-Am red perfectly, so I wanted to minimize that so it didn't stand out quite as much. Basically, go on their website, huntersafetyproducts.com, and pretty slick setup. You can pick your own materials, different patterns, different colors. You get to see your seat before it's built, and you can really pretty much build a seat that no one else has. And I think for an additional $20 they can put a custom logo in the headrest, so that's pretty cool. Check them out. Talk to Curtis, he'll hook you up. Good guy, go way back. Anyway, let's get these in. Alright, stock seats are out, so we're ready to transfer sliders to the new seats, bolt the new seats in. So if you're tall like I am, I'm 6'3". I lowered the seats, the factory seats. I took the 2-inch spacers out, which are right here. These normally sit right there, and your seat base sits on top of this, and then the nut on top of that, sandwiches it all together, good to go. These are designed so that you can lower the seats by 2 inches, either in the front and the back. 2 holes here, or you can just do one or the other. So me being as tall as I am, as long-legged as I am, I decided to drop the seat front and back. So I took spacers out, and instead of using a hole at the top, I used a hole at the bottom. Gives me more headroom, more leg room. Headroom's important, especially if you ride in California where you have to wear a helmet, which we do. So with these new seats going in, I'm going to have to shorten these studs. Now with the factory seats, a lot of guys will put this, they take this spacer out, they'll drop their seat all the way down to the base, they'll throw this on top, and then they'll put the nut on top of that, so you don't have to thread your nut all the way down here. I should have done that the first time. I didn't. I was intending to do that with these aftermarket seats. However, these studs are so long And if you drop the seat frame all the way to the floor, these studs will contact the bottom of the seat. So I don't ever plan on raising these seats again, so I'm going to cut these off. And basically what I'm doing, I use this as a gauge. I'm cutting that much off of the studs. You can see my paint mark right there. I'm going to cut those off. That'll allow me to run the aftermarket seats all the way at the bottom and not have any interference on the top of the stud with the bottom of the seat, so that it slides back and forth the way it should. And I also won't have to thread the nut all the way down. So I'm just going to take a cut off, buzz all of these off at my paint mark. I'll get the sliders bolted onto the new seats, set them in here, and see what happens. Alright, so we've got the stud shortened, ready to set the seats in after we get the bases on. I know I said I was going to use a cutoff for this, but then I realized I didn't want to throw sparks all over the place inside of this thing, especially since the fuel tank's right there. So anyway, I ended up using a Sawzall and just cleaned up the top of the bolt. Tested it with the nut, threads on there as it should. Alright, so we're ready to transfer the stock sliders over to the aftermarket seats. You can see in here, flip the base up, 4 bolts. Take those out, that unbolts the stock sliders from the seat frame, and then we'll transfer them over to the new seats. You can cut right there. Go. Alright, all 4 bolts are out. Put the seat off. You got gravity. Pull this little rubber boot off the end of the handle. Otherwise, it won't come out of the slot in the plastic frame. Just pulls off there like that. And there we go. Alright, so the seat base is held on with Velcro. Pop that on. Slip it inside. And you've got 4 slots cut in the top side of this. That allows you to access the plates here. That's going to match up with your factory sliders. So you can reach through here, feed your bolts right through there. A little bit of coordination, you can get it done. The other thing you're going to run into, if you're running the seats all the way to the bottom position like I am, we discovered that the release mechanism for the slider not only hits the bottom of the seat, but it also hits the tube on the bottom of the car. So once we get it installed, we just slip a wrench over there, give it a little tweak, it clears it just fine. So take these plates that came off of the factory seats, separate the bolts from them. Plate goes in on top of this. It's probably not critical that you have these in there, but they're there, so I'm going to use them. Feed the bolts in from the top. Like I said, coordination. I found it's easiest to get the bolts all the way in there before you can try and thread it into the sliders. You did have to take a little screwdriver and pry the material back just a little bit so you can get the bolt all the way in. There's one. So then we'll take this, blue Loctite. I want your seat bolts falling out. It's a bad day if you crash. And then 13mm. Get that on the head of the bolt. And I'm just going to thread this on here. Make sure you get this straight. You cross thread it, and you're going to have to do some fabrication. So ratchet on there, turn it on there by hand just to make sure we're not cross threading. let's say that's started. So I'll get the rest of the bolts started in there and I'll run it down with the impact. Alright, so like I said, I'm going to need to bend this a little bit. I just stick a wrench on it from underneath and just give this a little tweak. Maybe. That should do it. Still functions, but it should be high enough it doesn't hit the bar inside the car. Okay, so issue number 2. My wife is not 6'3", does not have long legs. This position worked for me very well, all the way down the back and at the top position on the front edge of the seat. However, with her, she can't reach the pedals. I told her, you just can't drive anymore. She didn't like that answer. So I need this to utilize the bottom mount, which it won't. As you can see, the top of the bracket is hitting the bottom of the seat frame. So I'm going to cut them off and we'll go from there. Alright, so I've got our modifications made so that we can run these at the lowest setting. I'm just setting the seat back in here. You want to run your sliders all the way back. That gives you good visibility. I'm getting the rear mounts on the studs. Sometimes you get a little bit out of sync and you kind of got to mess with it. So get both of them on the back. But they'll go just like that. That's pretty much it. Throw the hardware back on. Bolt the belts on. Throw the seat cushion back on, and that's it. I'm done with this. This is like miserable. It's July in Arizona. It's got to be 110 degrees in my garage. I'm glad to be done with this. Alright folks, that's it. They're in. Bit of a long process, but if you're going to put these at stock height, you won't have nearly as much work as I did. I like to keep my seats low, so pretty much double the install time. But they look great, they're comfortable, really fills up the cab. Again, you want a set of custom seats, contact Curtis at Hunter Safety Products.